morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from ePowerTrade, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, Feria Racing Components, Peak, Quarer, and Fifth Third Bank Motorsports. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePowerTrade, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 469, and we're going to be talking racing engines with Automotive Specialists Racing Engines. With me this morning are Judy Kin, the co-founder of ePowerTrade, and our wonderful host, Mr. Brad Gilly. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you everyone for joining us. I know we have a lot of new faces attending this morning. I'm excited about that, but I am very grateful and thankful to both Keith and Jeff for joining us. They just create power, and I'm proud to have them on today, right, Brad? But I want to take a second and just kind of share. We created this platform, like we came from PRI, and we love going to shows. Those shows are at the end of the year, just for a few days. So we created this racing destination for engine builders, machine shops, dealers from all around the world to join, log on, see suppliers, new products, companies you know, companies you don't know. And then if you have any interest, you could reach out directly to that supplier. They are exhibiting on this platform for the industry. So just enjoy the platform. It's there to use. Brad?
And very well said. And thank you so much, Judy. Thank you so much, Francisque. I know we'll talk to you guys here shortly, and really looking forward to today. Judy said it. We're talking about making power today, but we're not just talking about making power. We're talking about making big power, which is going to be really, really cool. So who doesn't want to know about that? I do want to remind you, if you have a question at any part during this, just type it into the chat, and we would love to talk about what you want to hear about. But the topic of today's webinar, the evolution of automotive specialists racing engines, from winning NASCAR races to breaking records in the wide open world of land speed racing. And joining us as panelists, Keith Dorton, owner, as well as Jeff Dorton. Gentlemen, welcome. How y'all doing today?
Doing great, thanks.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, let's get started with a little bit of background and sort of the evolution, because look, for decades now, Automotive Specialist has been one of the biggest names in stock car racing. You've had engines that have won the Daytona 500, countless short track races across the southeastern United States, and now you're into setting land speed records. So tell us about the evolution, and after all that success, what brought about the switch?
Well, naturally, being here in the center of stock car country from our onset, which my background was working with Holman and Moody before started the company in 1965, and primarily it was, when we first started, it was primarily local short tracks, drag racing, and so forth, and even some brake jobs just to get the company started. But it quickly evolved into pretty heavily into the top levels of NASCAR, which was our mainstay for decades. We still did some of the other venues, drag racing, road racing, marine, but primarily NASCAR related. And as you know, things have changed a little bit in that arena. So we've kind of changed our business model to look at all types of, let's call it motorsports, but motorsports could involve anything from a vintage car to a hot rod and all types of racing. So Jeff and I, well, first of all, just me, since I was a kid, I was intrigued by the land speed racing. I always thought Bonneville was a sacred place. And when I finally got to go, I guess 2008 or 9, I found out it really is. And quickly Jeff got interested too. And I'll let him explain a little bit on that.
Yeah, I first went in the first year I went, it rained. It was 16 or 17. Didn't even get to go when I saw them. So, but was doing all these engines and really didn't get to experience it. But the next year we come back and we're there for a week and set some records, and it was all about just performance there, where if you're working about getting this or that done, The only thing for a week you have to worry about is going fast. So it's really a challenge and really a lot of fun.
I love this. And, during our race industry week, we've had people from the Land Speed Association come on with us and everything. And it's been great to look, we've all heard about it. We've all seen some of the amazing machines that go out there and do that. But it's really neat to kind of learn the intricacies of that. Well, let's start with this. Keith, you were talking about the evolution and where you guys were. And fact of the matter is, in the world of NASCAR and stock car racing, everything is so strict right now as far as what can happen with engine rules and engine builders. Look, as builders, people are literally looking not for 5 horsepower gains, but fractions of a horsepower here and there, just to find everything that they can. Having that background, is that a benefit? Is it an obstacle when you're starting to now move to land speed racing, where you have dozens of engine classes and honestly relatively few rules for what is and isn't allowed?
I think our background being into two things, making power and longevity. One thing that especially people back here in the Southeast, and quite a few people from the Southeast are now participating in the land speed racing, which is kind of unheard of 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago. But we were able to capitalize on some of the knowledge that we had gained from working on other types of racing, NASCAR included, where we were able to take a top level NASCAR engine and make some more modifications and have a very durable and high horsepower combination to go there. People don't realize that, you say, well, you go 5 miles just straight, who couldn't do that? Well, it's 5 miles on like driving on a old country muddy road with 4-inch wide tires. That's a handful. So naturally, the faster you go, and we also found out that, I've heard the term that the hand of God stops you at a certain speed, and that's true because of the aerodynamics. Because we've had cases where we added horsepower, a substantial amount of horsepower, but didn't run any faster. So there's a whole combination of things, and it's a place where you will find people with unlimited ingenuity. They do have rules, and they are strict rules, but there's very few limitations as long as you find, cubic inches, blown or unblown gas or fuel. And that's about the extent of it. Some of the vintage classes don't allow any electronics or things like that, but and then the different classes with the body styles. So it's an area where we found that we can do a lot of different, and we have done a lot of different weird combinations to go out there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you see anything and everything there for sure. And in the staging lines, it's fun while you're waiting on your car to run to just go up and down the aisles and see all of the different combinations. It's really eye-opening to what people do.
Yeah, I can't imagine just sort of, whether it's the true trading of ideas or just looking over and seeing something that, I wonder how they made that work or whatever it might be. But, for you guys, with everything that y'all been doing, you broke 5 records this year, which is pretty special. I do want to talk about that, but customers had a pretty wide variety of engines, anything from a Ford flathead, a twin turbocharged diesel, a supercharged SB2, something maybe a little bit more familiar, but with some serious power adders on it. But now in an age of specialization, how do you guys stay competitive across such a wide range of engine types?
Well, you got to keep your eyes open. You got to keep up with what's new. And you can't be closed-minded for sure, because what doesn't work on something might work on the other. So we just do a lot of testing.
The 4 records or 5 records, And you just mentioned some of it there about the different things. We only had 4 cars in October, but they were so much different. And they flathead 250 horsepower. And, you know, the blown diesel or turbocharged diesel, I don't know how much power it made, a lot. And, excuse me, the ProCharge LS, Jeff handled electronics, excuse me.
Bless you.
I handled mechanical.
We were, the LS was different in August for us when we were out there. We run up on, where we, with a gear range we had, we wasn't able to, change gears. So, we was short a little bit of RPM in 4th gear, to get the mile an hour that we need. Still got a record, but we did, the car wanted to go 300. We didn't quite go 300. So this time we go back in October, we put, 5 more pounds of boost to it. And things were looking really, really good. Didn't quite get there yet, but there's endless options there for sure.
Yeah, I think that is that's awesome. All right, so I'm curious. We talk about all of these different engines: the flathead, the twin turbo diesel, the SB2 with supercharged, and all of that. The twin turbocharged diesel. What did that go in? What type of vehicle?
It was a Streamliner, and we'll try to get some photos and put them on our social media of the different cars we had after this. But it's a Streamliner built by Steve Watt, who built the Speed Demon that everybody knows. It's been so fast. It's a really nice, slick car, best of everything. The diesel, the Duramax diesel we built with partners with S&S, specialized in diesel injection out of Indiana. Can't tell you how much they helped us on that project. And but it's a really, really slick car.
All right, so I'm curious, Jeff. Was this to set a diesel record, or was diesel the best for the application in whatever record was going to be set?
Okay, this was to set a diesel record in this car. This customer, he's a diesel guy. We're building some other stuff. He's got a nice pickup truck that he's set records with out there before. And then this time we run 325, which is the fastest the diesel has been. Yeah, we didn't get a record. We qualified for a record. So we had, you know, in learning this application and everything, you know, you're going to hurt some stuff. And we hurt a head gasket. And we're going to make some changes and go back. So we wasn't able to back up the run, but there's way more than 325 in it. So we're excited. Can't wait for next year to go back.
Yeah, see, that's what's the best about this. This is one thing I truly love about like the land speed, because it absolutely is innovation. Like you said, you learned something, you blew a head gasket. You didn't set the record, because setting a speed record isn't just hitting a trap one time. You have to go back and repeat it going the other way, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that the way the process works?
But it used to be you had to go back the other direction after that in a certain amount of time. Now, if you qualify for a record, you go to impound and you get 4 hours to do your maintenance on the car. And then it's usually the next morning, you have to back up the run, but you go in the same direction.
That's really cool. That's pretty amazing. Well, let's talk about difficulties and all that when it comes to land speed racing, and especially in an environment like the Bonneville Salt Flats. That seems pretty harsh as well for highly tuned racing.
Yes, for one thing, one of the biggest things we see is corrosion from being out there a week, and salt gets everywhere. You can have a brand new, nice, shiny engine and you get it back. And the guys with the cars have the same thing, but it just really ages things. So we've learned about fastener failures from corrosion and stuff like that out there. So it's fairly different. And then, of course, Dad mentioned on the traction, you know, it is hard to get a hold of. The salt can be way different from time to time. There can be bumps. This year, the track was really smooth and really good, and there was a lot of records set.
That's pretty amazing, the way all of that stuff works with everything. All right, so let's talk about building a competitive engine for wide open throttle. You know, I mean, you guys talk about NASCAR success, and, you know, in some places you just stay wide open for a little while, but typically everything we're doing is on the gas, off the gas, on the gas, off the gas. And now these runs can last up to 7 miles. So when you're starting to talk about the architecture of an engine and things you're doing, is that Jeff, more like building a drag racing engine that makes quarter mile blast, or is that more like an oval track engine where we talk about endurance?
It's more like an oval track engine. Cam profiles are in between, but you really have to have that endurance factor, and you really have to have heavier parts. You can't leave anything on the table. We do a lot of main girdles, a lot of bigger fasteners, O-rings, and all of that stuff. But you build so much extra heat that you have to take into that consideration too. That fifth mile, and it's time 5 miles, and they give you extra miles to slow down. But that fifth mile in fourth gear, that's the hard one. When you get into fourth gear and you need to make your speed, but that's when things seem to happen.
Yeah, you had mentioned gearing, and I know we're talking about engines and everything, and I'm not sure how much you get involved on that, that side of it as well. But, when you're making such a long run like that too, I mean, are we talking some pretty tall gears, or what is it, a larger spread in it? How does that work?
Yeah, gears on those things, it depends on the variant, of course, all the different cars and everything. But yeah, it takes a really tall gear, and you take off really slow. Most of the cars are pushed off. They push them to about 50 miles an hour. And then they pull away from the truck then. If you can pull away from the truck clean, which is my biggest problem I have with our fuel injector stuff, is not able to simulate that on a dyno here, especially with the difference in sea level, is to get them to, not want to, miss a little bit and then clean up and go. So, my friend Scott Clark, Real Tuners, has really helped me with that, getting our tip ends, as he calls it, up to speed. And you really gotta get off that truck. And once you do that, then you're in good shape.
Never thought about that. What you guys are in the Charlotte area, right? So that's anywhere from about 500 to 800 feet above sea level. What is it out at the Salt Flats?
This past August, the air was really, really bad. It was 7,700 feet, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Density altitude was like 8,000 feet. I apologize for the coughing fit. I went and got a cough drop, so hopefully I'm over it.
Oh, don't even worry about it. Trust me. If you live in my world, that's a big fear of mine too, and especially the way the air has been moving around here.
One thing that about and it goes for all types of racing, but I've experienced it more so than Jeff because I've done it so much longer. But for instance, even if it's a short track, oval track, and you can go from hero to zero in a split second, because we've been there leading the race, and all of a sudden you see smoke, and then the crew chief gives you the stink eye, and because he pat you on the back in 1 second. It's the same way out there. I've been totally brought to my knees at Bonneville because you're really pumped and something stupid happens, or a catastrophic failure can happen also. I mean, for just like this diesel, they ran 325, and the fastest anybody had ever went was 318. Went to impound, everybody was really happy till we found out that we had water in one cylinder. So it's very humbling. And before I had my coughing fit, I was gonna tell you this. It's, I started about the muddy road, how it's not that easy. And we've had guys that went out there, and because, gosh, we've run an average of over 200 miles an hour, on these oval tracks. To go out there, how hard would it be to go 200 miles an hour? And they have what they call the 200 mile an hour club. Well, that's not as easy to get in as you think. And Jeff and I really want to get in that club sometime if we can work it out. But you have to not only run over 200, but say if the record in that class that you're running is 210, you got to run 211. So it's not as easy as it sounds, and there's more people have climbed Mount Everest than to send this 200-mile-an-hour clip. So that gives you an idea of how hard it is.
Yeah, that actually is a great way to put it into perspective. Real quick, I want to remind anyone who's viewing us live right now, if you have a question for either Keith or Jeff, please, by all means, type it into the chat. We'd love to ask what you want to know about for sure. Jeff, you had mentioned, simulating things different, like a push off at 50 miles per hour, and how that impacts what you're doing on the dyno with EFI and all that. Well, in the NASCAR days, Keith, you exclusively worked with carburetors and naturally aspirated engines. Now you've got more modern EFI, boosted applications, turbo and superchargers. Have you enjoyed that change? What surprised you most about the possibilities that have opened up with having power adders and computer controls now?
Well, it's, for one thing, we wouldn't be using the electronics if it wasn't for Jeff, because I was born way too early to learn that again. So that's entirely on his back. And Jeff is self-taught there. I mean, he certainly had some help. He mentioned Scott Clark and some others that have had his back. But, he's been able to pick this up, and, I think he's shared some of the information that he's picked up from some of the odd type things we do, like the twin turbocharged 6-cylinder Chevrolet 1958 model that we made 520 horsepower with. We had some outside help, but Jeff is the one that dialed that thing in on the dyno.
That's
Yeah,
pretty.
we do all kinds, and that's what makes our job fun. We get to do a neat project like that. And that guy, that 6-cylinder engine was also the guy that owns the Land Speed diesel, the Duramax guy. So he's definitely a turbo guy, and just a great guy, and proud to do work for him.
Yeah. What is that 6-cylinder in right now?
58 Suburban. That car's been all over the country now. It's won awards everywhere it's been. But he wanted to make over 500 horsepower with a 58 model 6-cylinder. So it was quite a challenge, but it worked out.
Yeah, the power was there. We could have made way more power, but with your foundation that you have, like we talked about earlier, you're not able to do everything you need to do in an application like that. So we limited the power. We could have made way more power, but it's got to live, and it's a good streetable combination.
I love that though, but and just trying to continue to achieve more and everything. We've talked about a lot of outside the box thinking when it comes to gaining that competitive advantage with your builds. We talk about the V6 class. How did you guys come up with that idea?
Well, it actually wasn't a V6 class. The classes are determined by cubic inch, and the customer we had was wanting to run a class that was limited to 260 cubic inches. And we did him an inch, and then he did okay, but it wasn't there. And it hit me one day, we couldn't get any compression with the V8. So I thought, well, why not cut off 2 cylinders, make it a V6, and then we can get, instead of a maximum of like 10-to-1 compression, we can get 13 or 13.5-to-1 compression. So we just made up counterweight. There's a YouTube video on that whole build, but just made a bob weight to go on the back journal, blocked off those 2 cylinders. Looked like a V8 on the outside, but it was really a V6. There was, the sanctioning people out there questioned a little bit at first, but when we showed them, how it'd be impossible for those 2 cylinders to be operative. And it was really strange because it made about 100 pound-feet more torque at 6,000 RPMs, which made it accelerate better. and made more power until what, about 9,500 or so, it
Right.
equaled out with the V8. But, you know, we never broke a record with that thing because we heard it the first time because of our lack of experience at doing that. Once the tack in the car was set for a V8 and it was V6. So instead of 9,000 RPMs, he was turning 10, 5, or 11. And they didn't like that. So the engine is back together, and we hope to go back to Bonneville with it when he decides to run that class again.
That is too cool. That is, and especially the discovery of that. Let's talk a little bit more too about the world of land speed racing, because there are dozens of engine classes and car types you can choose from, as we've already talked about some of those here. But you also only get a handful of chances each year to compete, and that's only if the weather cooperates. So, speaking of the classes and everything, how do you and your customers pick that class, where you think you can break a record, especially if you have not built a specific engine like that before? How do you know how much horsepower you can make?
But fortunately, we have a kind of a database now. We've done enough of it. We know about how much power, especially if it's an existing customer, how much power it's going to take to go so fast. So then you look at the different classes, and they're lettered A, B, C, or double A, B, C, D, E, and on down to the really, really small stuff. The higher the letter, the smaller the engine. And you just you look at that and see what the existing record is, and you go back to your database and see what it took to run with the same configuration car, and then you figure out how to make enough power to go back. That's the hard part, but at least you got an idea of what you need to make.
I'm curious, like with the design of some of these cars, like you talk about a Streamliner and things like that, how much consideration, or is it ever a concern about the way the car is designed to, get through the air to try and, get a faster speed? Because I'm sure people are working everywhere, but make sure the engine gets enough air, make sure it can breathe like it needs to.
Well, we have had that trouble in the past with other Streamliners, where we were carbureted and couldn't get enough air to it. So we've had trouble like that. So we went to EFI with that car and was able to get a record over 300 in that car. But that's been a few years ago. So sometimes the engine is second thought to our car guys. We are fortunate enough that the teams we're working with now, they make any changes we want. But sometimes you're just not physically able to get enough the room you want. Most of these cars, when you take the body panels off of it, the engine and the intercoolers and the blowers and all, I mean, there's no room left in these cars. So it's definitely, you got to think outside the box to get everything you need.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know you guys have a lot of stuff in the shop too. And Keith, when you and I talked yesterday for a little bit, I wasn't sure. Do we have it set up to do a little bit of a show and tell at all, or a little tour?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We would love to see some of the things you're working on, if that's possible to do as well.
Yeah. Sure do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yeah. Let's show you what we got going on.
I love it. Love it. Love it. This is so much fun. And, Keith, honestly, did you ever think that, when you're building Daytona 500 engines and all of that, that all of a sudden you would step out and live inside of a completely different world like you got going now?
Well, no, not to the extent we have. And Jeff certainly didn't think we would.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right,
Okay.
Jeff, we can see you pretty well. So I don't know if you can narrate.
Sure. We'll come on to the assembly room and we'll see what we got. We have a variety that we're working on now. This engine here is a all aluminum SP2 for a Corvette project, street strip application. This is a big box Chevrolet blown for a street strip application. This one is just a normal 4.0 Jeep that you see everywhere these days. rebuild. We're doing a short block for a local guy. We have some different injection stuff that we're working with. On this side of the room, we have another SV2 all aluminum. This one's going to New Zealand for a road race class. And then over here we have just a 327 small block Chevy for a restoration project. And this one is kind of unique. This one's going in an older boat. This is a 292, I'm sorry, a 312 Ford Bob block. It's going in a vintage boat going to California. So we're just about to wrap that up. And it has some oil modifications for the camshaft because they have to run a flat tap cam with the Bob block. But one of the most exciting things we've been working on this year is our flathead project. And we have our billet flatheads heads that we have here. We're still in development with them. We have raced them, and things are looking well.
That's pretty cool. So when you're in development with it, is that like, version 3, version 10? What is that we're looking at?
Yeah, let's go with 10 and just stop there.
I like, hey, as long as it keeps getting faster and better, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's pretty cool. And you look, you have a variety of engines just sitting right there in that engine room. I know we're talking about land speed records and all of that, and then a great history with NASCAR, but it's not just land speed that we're talking about today, right? When it comes to the company, Automotive Specialists, and what you guys are doing.
Oh, no, we do, land speed is a big part of our business. And I could see if they race more where maybe that's all we did, but they don't race enough. And so we're involved in a lot of different projects, from a vintage restoration to a road race car. And like I said, this one's going to New Zealand, so we've done a lot of work there. It is very diverse around here for sure. But let's take you out in the shop and show you what we're going on out here.
Yeah, that would be great. Which, by the way, let me compliment you guys, as it should be. That is a nice, pristine, beautifully clean shop.
Well, we try. We're not as clean as we need to be all the time, but that's a never-ending battle.
Yeah, that looks great. And it looks like you got plenty of room, plenty of equipment in there too, to get everything done you need to.
Yeah, we can do everything in-house. We can't grind cams or crankshafts, but we do everything else in-house. Our latest addition, and one we're very proud of, is our Rottler CNC machine. And we have kept it busy. And this week is block sleeving. We have them lined up ready to sleeve. On the LS side, there's I think 6 of them here total to be sleeved. But all these are LSs. This is a Honda. This is a Nissan. This is another Nissan here that's having a main girdle and some sleeves and all that stuff too. So we get a little bit of everything here. This is our F69A, and we're doing all our block work on it now. It's a machine we've had 2 years now, and I wish we'd had it 10 years ago. It's made that much of a difference.
That's really cool. Yeah, we've had them on here before, talking about the machines they build and everything. It's just now it's really neat to see one of those in an application. What kind of variety, Jeff, of applications are those engines that we're looking at? I mean, from a Honda to a Nissan to LS engines and all of that. What are people doing with those?
Okay, these the LS stuff that you see here, we do some machine work for a local tuning shop, and all these are street strip guys, where they're doing most of these are turbocharged or nitrous. Where they're having the sleeves put in, and they'll make 1,000 horsepower at the rear wheel is pretty common these days. So that the Honda is just the same thing, just a 4-cylinder. I'm not sure what they're doing with the Nissan. It's just a sleeve job, and this one is a drag race. The RB26 is a drag race application.
Yeah, and you guys actually, I mean, obviously you're great builders, but heck, y'all do a lot of machine work for other shops too, don't you?
We do. We have done a lot. And with the addition of our Rottler over the past year, we've done over 100 NASCAR blocks. So that was very good for us too.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. It's amazing how, how everything cycles. Talking about the land speed side of things again, Jeff, too, this is literally the time of year when all of these things happen, right? I mean, it's almost, I'm impressed that you guys have the time to take with us here today to talk about this as well. But are there any more meets still to come this year? What's up next?
Elmerod still has a meet. I think they have 2 meets left. I don't think we're going to have any customers do either one of those meets, but there is 2 land speed events left.
That's pretty neat. Do you ever see any of the cars like in the shop, or how, especially, we're talking earlier about the design and making things work, making it fit into one of these cars and all of that. How does it happen on the other side as well with what you guys are building? And, especially if you're adding, different things like superchargers and turbos and all of that, where those fit, how those fit, what type of, coordination has to happen with that?
Well, most of the time the guys will bring the car to the shop for us to do a mock-up in. And that really helps, or we'll give them a mock-up engine. But until you get everything you need, and you don't know what you need until you're done making power in a dyno, it's hard to do a mock-up. So most of our land speed customers have brought their car here, and we did a quick fit. And like I say, the thing about land speed guys is they're so easy to work with, and they're more hobbyist. Not that they're not professional racers, but they're more hobbyist, and they really go the extra mile to make as much power as we can get in the car.
Are there specific fuel rules that you guys have to abide by, or is that a little more wide open? And what's important for you guys to know as far as what those applications might be?
Well, the SCTA is the sanctioning body for Bonneville. They have 2 classes. They have a fuel class, and which you can run any fuel you want, and then the regular gas class is the standard class. They have a selection of VP fuels that you can choose from, and they're very picky about it. You have to have them actually see you open a sealed container right there on the soft. So they're very picky about that. The fuel, like I say, you can run anything you want. So that's easy about that. And the weird thing about that is we have a lot of guys that will run the gas class and then get a record there and then switch over to fuel, may not change the fuel, and then go run that class. But sometimes the records are real close together.
Oh, no kidding. That's pretty neat. Any concerns, especially when you're making big power like you guys make and running different fuels?
Well, you have to have a tune-up for it if you do decide to do the better fuel. You have to know what changes to make. But, they're pretty straightforward, though.
That's pretty neat. What when you see someone going out there making a record run, I have to know what for you guys is the anticipation, the nervousness, the eagerness, whatever it might be. What are you feeling in your gut?
Well, you're definitely nervous. The first thing is making sure the thing starts. You're on the line and you might have waited 4 or 5 hours for your turn to run. So you don't want to get up there and then have a problem. So once it starts, and then like I was telling you early, once it pulls away from the truck good and clean, then you can breathe. And then you listen for all the gear changes. Sometimes shifts can be missed, just like in anything else. And there's been some problems there, but you just once it starts and leaves the truck, you feel a lot better, and then you just listen for those gears.
Brad, can I add to that?
Yes, please.
I've raced all my life, and it's just like I think an entertainer getting out on the stage in front of a stadium full of people. If you don't get the butterflies, I don't think you're doing your job to the utmost. But every time one of our cars leaves the line, it's just like taking the green flag at the oval track races, and makes you very nervous. And all these things run through your mind. Did you do this? Did you do that? So like Jeff said, it is a big relief once that car leaves the starting line or leaves the truck and gets through, that last gear. And I want one thing I can add too about that we haven't talked about, the competitors and that type of racing are doing it strictly for the fun. And there's no trophies. there's certainly no money. You get your name in the book and you kind of get bragging rights. So these things are very, very, as competitive as any other type of racing, because there are certain classes that we've gone back and forth with other competitors. And I might add, we're still friends, that the record went back and forth. Because, one would beat the other one. And so it's very, very gratifying, but there's no monetary thing involved.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, just literally purely for sport. And that's a really neat thing. Just curious, do you guys see, look, issues are going to happen. You talked about blowing a head gasket on that diesel. Are those common among all engines? Is that, a too much boost kind of thing? Is that something else? I mean, what you find here, do you find it over there? And can you sort of solve some of the same problems, even though you might have learned something on a diesel that now you're putting on a gas car?
Oh yeah, that's a great point, because we find we can learn from one type of racing or one type of engine and improve another type. So yes, some of the things that like we've learned about cylinder sealing, we're going to adapt to this diesel.
That's interesting. Are the dyno runs different when you're making a land speed engine, as opposed to, if you're just breaking in a circle track engine or something like that? I mean, are you doing things differently in that way?
No, not really. I mean, we're like the NASCAR guys, they can simulate a 500-mile race. We don't have the equipment to do that. If we did, we could probably simulate a 5-mile run. But the guys that they call it the big white dyno on the salt, because it seems like it's the longest dyno pull you've ever had, because the engine it's at its max for 5 miles.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And at its mass, I'm sure, with the big powers, or anything on the horizon, that might just be in the planning stages right now that you could tell us about that might be pretty big.
We've got some developments in our flathead projects for both the hot rod world and land speed or racing vintage classes. The flathead stuff, we've got quite a bit going there, and as well as our LS stuff. We've got some new stuff going there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's amazing. Look, the amount of experience in engine building, and that's almost invaluable. And now the amount of experience that you guys have when it comes to this with land speed and all of that, is certainly invaluable as well. We did just have one quick question come in from the chat saying, how much development have you worked on in the air intake area? And I'm going to maybe assume that's just the design of an intake, if I had to guess.
We've had some of our biggest gains have been in that area. When we first started taking a NASCAR engine with a 4150 single carburetor, we were able to gain a substantial amount of power by fabricating manifold. In other words, we found that where you're just looking for top end power, we just couldn't get enough air into the engine. So we've, people looked at us like we were crazy on some of the sizes of throttle bodies and carburetors that we've run on even a small cubic inch engine. Or, we're not interested in how much power we can make down low like you would on the other types of racing, because we don't have the traction. So we took all that from the bottom end, lower RPM range, and added all we could to the top. And a lot of that is through the induction.
That's really interesting. Have you ever run into anything that, boy, if I could have only gotten away with this on a different sanctioning body side, wouldn't that have been great? And now, now you have free reign. It's no longer a gray area.
Oh yeah, that is something that is like a dream come true for an engine guy.
I can't imagine. And I can't imagine having lived in the world and thinking, no, I can't do this. No, oh, wait, today I can do this, which is, I'm sure, a lot of freedom and a lot of fun to mess with.
that's what makes, like Jeff talked about, these flatheads, what makes them so challenging. You know, when we can take an engine that made 80 to 90 horsepower, and if we can make close to 300 naturally aspirated, you know, that's quite an accomplishment.
That's a big accomplishment. It almost feels like you're kind of stretching the laws of physics sometimes, doesn't it?
And we do.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like earlier you said sometimes the hand of God limits you on what you can do. But you know, obviously you want to try and push that hand back just a little bit, I'm sure.
All right.
That's pretty special. Keith and Jeff, I'll tell you what, it's so amazing to see what goes on. And again, with just, you know, decades of automotive experience and all of that. And with the Automotive Specialists Racing Engines, everything that you guys are doing, you know, as we talked about, it's not just the land speed. We know this is a pretty big focus of things you guys are doing right now. But again, it's wide open. If someone's interested in having you guys, you know, work your magic on what they're doing for power, how can they do that? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach out for us. We have website, social media stuff. Just give us a call. We're glad to talk with anyone and help you in any way we can. We do all kind of engines and do them just like if you were going to Daytona or Bonneville. So
one thing is we've stressed about ourselves. We treat every customer the same way, whether it's NASCAR or land speed or, you know, a street driven hot rod. And we take the same amount of care and pride in those engines. That's why, you know, it's hard to explain to some customers that we spend more time on a flathead than we do on
an RO7.
yeah. So, but it can happen.
That's really neat. Well, gentlemen, the next time we talk, we look forward to hearing about how, you know, like the 5 records you broke this year is maybe doubled next year. And it's great to see how much success you're having. And we really appreciate you giving us time here today.
You can bet we're going to try. So, but no, it's a pleasure. I mean, we're honored to be on this webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and what a great session, and what a pleasure to be hosting you. I mean, such legends. So thank you very much. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the ePortrait platform, distributed through our newsletter and social media channels. In the meantime, please check ePortrait.com for any updates and information. Next webinar will be on waste gauges technology, and we're going to be traveling to the UK to talk with DSPS Engineering. Once again, thank you and goodbye.
ePortrait is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
ePortrait, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
ePortrait really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
Roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series.
For over a decade, Fifth Third Bank has been a staunch supporter of our industry and a great partner for many companies in the motorsports field.
Our business has been growing extremely fast, and really we could not be where we are today without Fifth Third. They provided amazing strategic advice, the capital we need to support our phase of the group.
They are true partners for me now, and what they do with their involvement in motorsports is untouched in this community.
Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
Where will you find Ferrea racing components, circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop? In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Ferrea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
Scribner Plastics has provided professional strength shipping containers to the automotive and performance industry for over 40 years. We have containers that will fit most any configuration of complete or partial engines and transmissions. Today we highlight part number 5148 cylinder head shipping and storage container. Base has double wall durable construction featuring a cinch strap with an abrasion sleeve that securely fits your small block, big block, and pro stock heads to the base at all times. Talk to your dealers and distributors about the shipping storage container for cylinder heads from Scribner Plastics, part number 5148.